Hey there, I'm Joshua Johnson. It's good to be with you on this Tuesday, September 6th, and here's some of what we're talking about tonight. Kids got back to class today in Uvalde, Texas, 3 months after that horrific school shooting. We'll see how the day went and how the district plans to keep people safe.
We're good. We're okay. We're scared, but we're here.
A special master will review the Mar-a-Lago documents as former President Trump requested. What could this mean for the Justice Department's investigation? The United Kingdom has a new prime minister. We'll introduce you to Liz Truss and consider which of the UK's challenges she'll take on first. Plus, the U.S. accuses Russia of buying weapons from North Korea to use in Ukraine. And Californians are saving power to keep cool in a historic heat wave. Is any relief in sight? Well, the school year has begun for many children across the U.S., maybe for your kids too. Day one can be exciting and a bit scary. It certainly was for kids in Uvalde, Texas, about 3 months after the mass shooting at Robb Elementary School. That campus remains closed, and it could soon be torn down. The district moved students who would have gone to Robb into 2 other local schools, and they also added a virtual option. All of Uvalde's schools have more security measures in place. Among them, 8-foot fences, new cameras, and bullet-resistant sheeting on the windows. But some parents and students say they're still nervous and skeptical.
We're leaving everything in God's hands, and hopefully it's a better, blessed year for all the children.
We're good. We're okay. We're scared, but we're here.
Sad. Well, nervous, actually. And scared.
Can you tell me what you're scared about?
If it's going to happen again.
Add to this fear a general sense of distrust in Uvalde's district leaders and in the Texas Department of Public Safety. Back in July, an investigation by the Texas House found systemic failures on many levels. Joining us now is Brian Lopez, public education reporter for the Texas Tribune. Mr. Lopez, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Paint us a picture of day one. Tell us a bit of what you saw and heard from parents as they dropped their kids back off at school.
It was a lot what we saw in those takes, a lot of nervousness, anxiety, and fear, especially from children that were there at Robb that day. I think the consensus from today was, we're scared that it will happen again. And on top of that, some parents aren't fully trustful that, these new security measures are going to prevent something else from happening. I think, one of the things that's important to know is that only one campus has been really fully enclosed in that 8-foot fencing that the district has been talking about. A lot of these security upgrades are still being installed across several different campuses. Then you have, the high school and the junior high, which are just massive open campuses, which is making a lot of parents and community members nervous as well.
Tell us more about those security measures. What all is the district promising to do once everything's in place? Is it just physical security? Does it have to do with training of officers? What's the overall plan?
So from what we've gathered from the district, it's a two-pronged, both social, emotional needs, and also that physical, beefing up of the security, which includes that fencing. It includes the law enforcement on campuses as long as the school district needs it. And then there's also, hiring of counselors. They've contracted, a system where kids can kind of check in to see how they're doing before getting to school. So those are, the main 2 big things that the Uvalde CISD is kind of gunning for, and making sure that these students and parents and families feel safe. But, it's not going to be easy. It's only been 3 months, and it's going to take some time for the district to win over the trust of some of these families.
How has the district been responding to the criticisms from from parents in terms of trying to win folks over and convince them that those schools are safe?
You know, I don't think they've been doing a very good job at it as of now. You know, there's a sense of distrust in the district over, you know, the handling of Chief Pete Arredondo, the district police chief who was just recently fired, you know, 3 months on the dot. They don't like how some of the police, school district police that, you know, were there that they had robbed are still being employed by the district. So there's you know, a lot of distrust there still. And, you know, the parents, community members, they want more accountability. You know, they've been telling me they're not done with, you know, just the police chief being fired. You know, that's the first step. And if, you know, the district really wants to ensure that these families will keep coming back to their schools, they're demanding for more.
We got the first day of school numbers for Uvalde CISD. It looks like the first day enrollment this year, well, it says 3,724 students attended on the first day. That's 88.8% of the anticipated enrollment. Actually a little bit better than last year's first day, which was 85.8%. So clearly a lot of parents are still keeping their kids in the district. What about parents who've decided to pull their children out of the district or consider private schools or virtual schooling? How has that gone?
Yeah, specifically, you know, those parents that have been able to leave the district, whether it be for private or, you know, maybe somewhere 40 minutes down the road, they had those resources. And, you know, for them, you know, one of the biggest ones that they've been going to is Sacred Heart Catholic here in Uvalde. And, you know, they had their fence up before that first day. They had, you know, they're still trying to get their bulletproof windows and doors and things like that. And, you know, they've gone through every lock. So it's always, you know, it's always been about safety. These parents, you know, that have left have, you know, for one reason or the other decided that, you know, I feel like my child would be better here. Not even, you know, education-wise, safety-wise. And then a lot of the parents here in Uvalde, it's a working class community. You know, parents are working 2 jobs. Sometimes, you know, they're 40 minutes out. You know, this is a very rural community. So a lot of the parents, you know, they don't have another choice than to, you know, make the best out of the situation they're in, and send their kids back and kind of hope for the best.
And briefly, before I got to let you go, how are the schools, the teachers, dealing with the emotions of these kids? Are they trying to kind of not talk about it, lean into it, let the kids talk about it, keep it as positive and upbeat as possible, take whatever comes? I mean, it's scary enough being a little kid going to, you know, 3rd grade for the first time or 5th grade for the first time, let alone this. How are schools handling those kids' emotional needs?
For sure. So, you know, from what I've heard, very limited today from parents and teachers. You know, there was a Meet the Teacher event, you know, before school started, and a lot of the focus was on just helping the child, you know, that social emotional need wherever they are in that process. You know, if a child already has someone they're talking to about that, the teachers don't want to get, you know, involved in that aspect. They want to have, you know, one person that's dedicated to talking to that child through whatever, you know, emotional need that they're going to. Then you have other teachers, you know, who that is their task, you know, because maybe that child doesn't have anybody else immediately to go talk to. And then others, you know, parents would come in, you know, a family I talked to, you know, the first thing they had on their mind is, you know, where is the door, where are the entrances? And that teacher's job in that instance was to calm, you know, the parents down, tell them, you know, there's only one entrance here. This is where we would hide if something happened, and, you know, the door's locked from the inside. So it really just depends on, you know, the situation of that family is going through. You know, but teachers, you know, for the most part today, you know, looking from the outside in, it was a lot about being upbeat, especially in those younger grades. You know, you want to take their mind off of that. And it was just a lot about, you know, getting in the classroom, having a good time.
Brian Lopez, public education reporter for the Texas Tribune. Appreciate you starting us off tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's continue now with attorney Mark DiCarlo. He represents more than a dozen Uvalde families affected by the shooting. Mr. DiCarlo, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, sir.
Before I talk about the litigation that your clients are involved in, let me just ask you how they're doing today on this first day of school. What was today like for them?
I didn't check in with my clients on the first day of school. I believe a majority of my clients did not go back to school.
What was some of their thought process behind not going back to school? Oh, forgive me for interrupting. I'm just wondering what the thought processes were for them. Do they still not, I presume they still don't feel safe going back to the campuses?
That's right. The children are traumatized and they don't feel safe going back to school. I don't know if there's going to be accommodations for them to attend school online or whatever, but that's the status right now.
Tell me more about what your clients are seeking, about the litigation that they're involved with. What are they suing for?
Obviously, there's a number of persons that we believe are responsible that we've been investigating. Unlike the ATF assertions, we do not believe that that firearm was legally purchased at Oasis Firearms. We do not believe it was legally purchased online either. We believe it was illegally transferred to this young man who was the shooter. We are being stonewalled regarding much of our evidence and discovery. For example, the mere fact that this shooter was able to walk into the back school, into that back door. We're not given the locks. We're not given the any kind of inspections. We're being stonewalled by a number of attorneys hired with taxpayers' money to prevent us from getting information. We believe information is the most important thing for our clients, for them to heal and for them to feel better. In 10 or 20 years, whether you look at the Warren report under John F. Kennedy or you look at the 911 report, there are people still asking questions. We don't want our clients to be in that position. We believe we're entitled to that information to file the valid lawsuits that need to be filed against lock manufacturers, manufacturer of this atrocious Hellfire trigger, which we believe basically turned this firearm into a machine gun. There are many possible defendants, in addition to those the public entities who obviously do have some degree of sovereign immunity or immunity from lawsuits, such as the Uvalde Independent School District, the Sheriff's Office, etc.
And we did reach out to the school district for comment on the lawsuits and the accusations, and we haven't heard back yet, but that invitation to comment still stands. Granted, districts rarely comment on pending litigation, but we have offered. What do your clients hope to get from this beyond the lawsuit? I mean, is it their hope that they are able to go back to the schools in Uvalde and feel safe? Have they made peace with never going back? I mean, what is the long-term hope look like for them?
Well, obviously, many of the children are very severely traumatized. I don't know that they've planned very far in the future about what they intend to do in the future. But we do know and we do believe that if the needed information is received, that will, in fact, help to secure the safety of these schools. And we don't believe this school is safe. When you could look at the first time I went to Uvalde, I don't want to name the hotel, I had to stay at a very inexpensive motel. The most inexpensive motel had a better security system on their inexpensive doors facing outside than did Robb Elementary School. So you had to have an ID card, you had to have a card to get into the school. They had crash bars on the door that were worked, and you could not shut that door where it automatically locked. That did not happen in this case, and we believe that is being covered up by the school systems, by the Uvalde Police Department, etc. We don't have any kind of investigation. We don't have the autopsy report of this young man who was a shooter. Was he on drugs? Was he on alcohol? And that is supposed to be screened when he sold that weapon. So those are some of our issues, and there are many, and we are still being stonewalled regarding the information by a bevy of attorneys from everyone. Everyone's well lawyered up, and it is preventing us from getting the information to file our needed suits, which we are in the process of gathering at this time.
And I just want to, you kind of alluded to this a second ago, but I want to reemphasize it before I have to let you go, that you're not just pursuing litigation against the district. It sounds like you're also going after some of the manufacturers and the purveyors of these weapons, that this is kind of a multi-tiered series of issues that you and your clients are pursuing.
Absolutely. Based upon the year that this Robb Elementary School, that section of it was built, we believe that there were laws in place regarding design laws that were violated. Perhaps the engineer who designed that school again, the lock manufacturers, the Hellfire trigger manufacturer, we believe that was illegal. We believe the sale of the firearm was illegal. And we question why the alcohol and tobacco firearms would say so quickly that it was a legal sale without investigating the videotapes of the sale at Oasis where the firearm was transferred and or purchased. Those are some of the possible defendants in a case like this, including, of course, the estate of the young man who did the shooting. He will, in all probability, be sued as well, even though the estate and taking a judgment against him would be nearly worthless.
Attorney Mark DiCarlo, I appreciate you joining us tonight to talk through your client's demands for where this goes from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on.
Still to come, the Mar-a-Lago documents. A federal judge grants former President Trump's request for a neutral review. How will this special master affect the investigation? We're glad you're with us for Now Tonight from NBC News. How should the Justice Department handle the documents that were seized from Mar-a-Lago? Former President Trump has asked the court for extra oversight, and now it seems he could get that. Over the weekend, a judge ruled in favor of appointing an independent arbiter called a special master. That person's task is difficult enough, but much more sensitive under these circumstances. This special master would check for any documents protected by executive privilege. That would typically protect the executive branch from disclosure to outsiders, but the Justice Department is part of the executive branch, and Mr. Trump is not anymore. So, how will this unprecedented review work? And does the Department of Justice have reason to appeal? Let's get into that with NBC News legal analyst Danny Cevallos, who joins us here again at the table. Let me get into part of the judge's Labor Day weekend ruling, what Judge Cannon wrote. Quote, in addition to being deprived of potentially significant personal documents, which alone creates a real harm, plaintiff, the former president, plaintiff faces an unquantifiable potential harm by way of improper disclosure of sensitive information to the public, unquote. The first part of that sentence makes perfect sense. If you've got personal documents that were caught up in this that don't really have to do with the investigation, that kind of makes sense. The second part of it, the unquantifiable potential harm, that sounds like the devil and the details in how this special master would work.
It's hazy because that second part is just generally sensitive material. If the judge is talking about personal information that was swept up in that search warrant seizure, look, I mean, it's an interesting sentiment, but nobody cares about regular Joes who you've never heard of, who have search warrants executed on their home and their office. And certainly district court judges don't bend over backwards like this or show a great deal of concern about their private effects or the possibility that those private effects and sensitive information could be released to the public. So it's an interesting line. On the whole, I thought that justification was the weakest because, after all, that's what search warrants do. They seize things. They also seize personal items, and those personal items then get into the custody of the government, which is, by definition, a third party. So, I mean, that's kind of what happens with search warrants.
You and I talked about this last week, and you had mentioned how odd it was that the Trump legal team requested this, and that, you know, Merrick Garland's team was even playing ball on this, and now it appears this may happen. The former president's former Attorney General Bill Barr also responded on this, and he's criticized this as well. Here's part of what he said. Watch.
Opinion, I think, was wrong, and I think the government should appeal it. It's deeply flawed in a number of ways. I don't think the appointment of a special master is going to hold up, but even if it does, I don't see it fundamentally changing the trajectory. In other words, I don't think it changes the ball game so much as maybe we'll have a rain delay for a couple of innings.
So he's made it very clear that he does not believe in this. He called it in one response a crock of expletive.
Say it.
I wouldn't know. Why are you trying to get me in more trouble, Danny Cevallos?
Come on.
No, he told the New York Times he thought it was a crock of you-know-what. But with regard to that, does he have a point that the Justice Department could have grounds to appeal the appointment of the special master?
First, you know, Bill Barr is an institutionalist. He was twice the Attorney General. So, in a way, I'm not surprised that he would say, oh, a special master isn't needed. Because he's the DOJ. They like to use their filter teams. They like to use their own people and keep it all in-house. So I have kind of a unique take, which is that Bill Barr, yeah, in one sense he's criticizing Trump, but at the same time, he is DOJ, and they don't like special masters because they would rather keep all the documents to themselves. Now, as to the appeal, I keep going back to this theme in my mind. There are no winners in this case, and there are no losers. Trump won, but really, Joshua, what did he win? He delayed probably the inevitable. Maybe some of these documents will be privileged, maybe not. It doesn't change the fundamental crimes that DOJ was investigating. And that's why I think DOJ probably shouldn't appeal this. Why? Because if they do, it could possibly extend this even longer. As it is right now, there is light at the end of their tunnel. The special master, yes, he or she may take months to review these documents, but months DOJ can live with. They're an institution that has no problem with things taking a long time to come to fruition when it comes to an investigation. So they ride out these 2 months. They've already reviewed all the documents. They are allowed to review some of the earlier documents, even notwithstanding the judge's order.
Because they already said they had their own filter team go through all of this.
Well, yes, but that's the point. I mean, the judge did put a stay on them, but not as to all the documents. And by the way, they can't unsee what they've already seen. They've reviewed the documents. Their filter team reviewed the documents. Everybody's part of the government. They know it. They're there in the coffee room. They're talking about it. There's no question in my mind. They've already gotten almost everything they want. They really didn't lose this case.
So then with regard to the timeline, though, I mean, look at some of the, there's a timeline of how many times the government has tried to get information under the search warrant, going all the way back to May of 2021, when the National Archives requested these missing documents under the Presidential Records Act, which is the law that says these documents belong to the American people. They've been trying at this for a while. They obviously have to be sensitive to the timing of this at some point. So I kind of wonder at what point, if indeed this is just a rain delay, as the former Attorney General put it, when it washes out the game, when it actually changes the investigation by changing the timeline.
Joshua, you're thinking like a prosecutor. If you put that timeline back up, that timeline is basically the opening statement if DOJ ever prosecutes. They will go through that timeline and say, these are all the efforts that we made to try and get these documents back. And therefore, that when you look at it in that perspective, this whole special master mishegas becomes of diminishing importance, because that will be the element, that timeline that we're looking at will be the elements of the crime if he is ever charged with, say, obstruction, basically taking the documents and not returning them. Not whether or not some of them might have had some privileged, executive privileged material inside of them after review by a special master. Again, this is much ado about nothing. The fundamental concern for Trump should be the underlying crimes that were being investigated and why the search warrant was executed in the first place. I think DOJ went back to their offices today and said, well, we lost, but we didn't really lose that much.
What did we lose? Yeah. Exactly, in the scheme of things. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. We will get to some of today's other top stories in just a moment, including a massive settlement with the e-cigarette maker Juul over its marketing tactics, what's topping the agenda for the UK's new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, and the latest from Ukraine on the situation at Europe's largest power plant. Tonight's headlines begin at number 10 Downing Street in London, the official home of the UK's Prime Minister. It has a new occupant tonight. Liz Truss won an election among her Conservative Party to become the new Prime Minister. Today, Queen Elizabeth II formally asked her to form a new government. Truss addressed the nation on a rainy day outside number 10.
I am confident that together we can ride out the storm. We can rebuild our economy, and we can become the modern, brilliant Britain that I know we can be.
Ms. Truss has a long, perhaps daunting to-do list. It includes stabilizing the UK's economy and addressing a significant energy crisis. Liz Truss is the UK's third female Prime Minister after Margaret Thatcher and Theresa May. All three were from the Conservative Party. Ms. Truss also announced her new cabinet, and the four most prominent senior roles have been filled. None will be filled for the moment by white men. Today, President Biden called to congratulate the Prime Minister. The White House says the president looks forward to working together, including continued support for Ukraine. Joining us now is Hilary Fordwich, a business consultant, British commentator, and expert. Ms. Fordwich, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Pleasure. Good to be with Joshua.
Liz Truss is a fascinating choice for the new PM. She and Rishi Sunak had been going at it, having debates across the UK and trying to win over Conservative Party members. But her trajectory in particular is interesting, partly because she wasn't always aligned with the Conservative Party. She has a history as a younger woman of being more involved in liberal democratic politics. What's her rise been like?
Yes, you're absolutely right, Joshua. They're called hustings and referred to across the UK. She's been going at it with Rishi Sunak, who was the former Chancellor of the Exchequer. And you just mentioned there will be no white men in her cabinet. In fact, the new Chancellor of the Exchequer is Kwasi Kwarteng, and his parents came from Ghana in the 60s. But as to your question about her rise, yes, she comes from a background, she comes from the north, she comes from Yorkshire, where her parents were very much Labour supporters. That's sort of similar to Democrats in the US. So she came from that background, and she has, though, risen through the ranks. She originally was a Remainer in the UK, which means she wanted to remain in the EU. She was not pro-Brexit, but she was appointed as a trade minister, and she was successful at closing 72 trade deals around the globe, unfortunately not with the US, and rose to success through many offices. In fact, she's the most senior of all of the ministers, and that's one of the reasons why she received this. Very interestingly, though, Joshua, it was not a vote from the public, and the US should understand that, our American audience. This was not a national election. She was ousted, and it was called the Whitehall witch hunt by her own party. Boris Johnson was ousted by his own party, the Conservative Party. So she was elected by, first of all, a process that was by her fellow ministers, and it was whittled down to the two, you're right, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss, and then it was members only of the Conservative Party that then voted between the two of them, and that's how she became the Prime Minister, not from a national election.
Thank you for clarifying that detail of the process, that this was not kind of a typical national parliamentary election. So she hit the campaign trail, hit the hustings that they call it in the UK, what we in the US would call the campaign trail, and talked about a lot of her goals in various speeches and debates. She touched on three main goals during her speech today outside number 10. Here's part of what she said. Listen.
I will drive reform in my mission to get the United Kingdom working, building and growing. Secondly, I will deal hands-on with the energy crisis caused by Putin's war. I will take action this week to deal with energy bills and to secure our future energy supply. Thirdly, I will make sure that people can get doctor's appointments and the NHS services they need.
So economy, energy, and health, the NHS is the National Health Service across the UK. What has the reaction been like so far to Liz Truss's agenda? All three are big issues right now across the UK, but what's the reaction been like from everyday people in terms of whether she can do what she says she wants to do?
Well, Joshua, no one can speak for the entire nation. What I will say is that the response has been that at least she's really not a lady of a great orator. The Iron Lady, Margaret Thatcher, obviously was known as a great orator, but she's been touted as the Wooden Lady, meaning that she's not such a great orator and doesn't have all the platitudes that Boris Johnson, nor the excitement of Boris Johnson. But there is the response to her that she'll get things done, that she will deliver. She said she wants an aspirational nation, and from the clip that you showed earlier, brilliant Britain she has referred to the nation as. And I think the general sentiment is she is someone who is the proof in the pudding, Joshua. She does get things done, like those 72 trade deals. And she has said she wants to deliver, deliver, and deliver.
Before I must let you go, I wonder what your sense is of just the general mood of how the UK is doing right now. I think it's safe to say that after Brexit, the UK's economy has had a number of headwinds, not entirely of its own making. The world's economy is complex, but there have been challenges there. You've also had an array of prime ministers that have come in the last few years, from David Cameron to Theresa May to Boris Johnson and now Liz Truss. You've got the health of the Queen. She was unable to come to Buckingham Palace. They had to receive Liz Truss in Balmoral in Scotland, and she flew from Aberdeen back to London for today's event. So there's a lot. And then the energy crisis with Russia. there's a lot going on right now. It must feel like a terribly exhausting time to be British and to be watching British politics for the everyday person.
You're absolutely right. They say since the Second World War, there haven't been quite so many challenges. And really, a prime minister has not had quite so much in her in-tray since the 70s when Margaret Thatcher came to power. So Liz Truss has a lot to knuckle down and a lot to tackle. I will think it's interesting, though, those people that she's actually appointed, and you showed earlier members of her cabinet. Suella Braverman has been one of the many people that has been appointed, and she will be the Home Secretary that's in charge of policing and immigration, replacing Priti Patel. And one of the issues that's huge that you didn't mention, that's a big issue that actually Liz Truss didn't mention outside 10 Downing Street, but Suella Braverman is so tough, the former Attorney General, is that of immigration. Just like we have a lot of illegal immigrants coming across our southern border, there are so many immigrants going into the UK. So that is a huge issue as well. Yes, you're totally right also about the NHS. That's why she has her good friend, Theresa Coffey. She will be the Secretary in terms of health, and she will be knuckling down to work out those problems from the NHS. The NHS, the National Health Service, of course, was under immense strain because of COVID and because of the amount of hospitalizations. But there was a great rollout with the jabs, and what she has to do is she has to make sure to streamline the NHS, and she's promised to do so. You mentioned briefly the Queen. I will say one little historical tidbit for our audience. This is the first time in all of history that the monarch and the Prime Minister have shared the first name.
Hillary Fordwich, I appreciate you talking us through the first days on the job for the new Prime Minister. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, Josh.
U.S. intelligence says that Russia is in talks with North Korea to buy millions of rockets and artillery shells. Those weapons would be bound for Ukraine. This is all according to newly downgraded intelligence that the Pentagon confirmed today. And it raises questions about just how much Western sanctions are hurting Moscow's military efforts. Meanwhile, UN watchdogs say they remain, in their words, gravely concerned about the Zaporizhzhia power plant. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency addressed the Security Council today.
The hits that this facility has received and that I could personally see and assess together with my experts is simply unacceptable. We are playing with fire.
And this was just hours after the release of the IAEA's findings from last week's visit to Zaporizhzhia. NBC's Jay Gray is in Ukraine with the latest. Hey, Jay.
Joshua, good evening. The report says that there is an unparalleled danger at Europe's largest nuclear facility right now, and it calls for an immediate demilitarized or protective zone around the facility. It also gives us a clearer picture of what things are like inside, saying that shelling damage is near the reactor buildings and has struck buildings, really battering the rooftops of those that are holding fresh nuclear fuel as well as spent nuclear fuel. There's also damage, a strike to the container that holds the radiation monitoring system at the plant. It also talks about the condition of the employees inside. The Ukrainian scientists and engineers working under the watch of Russian soldiers who've taken over that plant. And I want to make sure I quote them properly here. It says that Ukrainian staff is under, quote, unbelievable pressure, and that morale and emotional state of the workers is, quote, very low. So that's something that they hope the two remaining independent investigators can help with as the process moves forward. Should also point out quickly that, as we know right now, the main line leading out of that plant is still not operational. It was a backup to start with, the main line damaged by shelling, and the only working reactor out of the 6, that energy is being used to cool the reactor cores as well as nuclear waste to prevent a meltdown. Joshua?
Thank you, Jay. That's NBC's Jay Gray with the latest from Ukraine. The e-cigarette company Juul Labs is about to settle a multi-state case over its marketing practices. Juul will pay nearly $440 million. Connecticut's Attorney General announced the deal today on behalf of 33 states and Puerto Rico. The settlement's the result of a 2-year investigation into Juul's nicotine vaping products. It also resolves one of the company's biggest legal threats. A statement from Juul reads in part, quote, "We remain focused on our future as we fulfill our mission to transition adult smokers away from cigarettes, the #1 cause of preventable death, while combating underage use," unquote. Critics have blamed Juul's products for a national surge in teen vaping. The company's dealing with 9 separate lawsuits from other states, and it's also facing hundreds of personal lawsuits on behalf of teenagers and others who say they got addicted to these products. Up next, an update from Jackson, Mississippi. The water pressure is better, but it's still not safe to drink. A look at some possible long-term solutions when we come back. Tonight, most residents of Jackson, Mississippi have normal water pressure in their taps, but it is still not safe to drink. The city remains under a boil water order. Mississippi state health officials are in the process of lifting that advisory. But Jackson's mayor says even once that happens, some long-term issues need to be addressed.
But I think that it is critical that we don't drop a mission accomplished banner just yet, because the condition is still as we've said it is. That it's not a matter of if these systems will fail again, but when these systems will fail again if we don't have permanent fixes in place.
As for what those permanent fixes could be, Mississippi's Governor Tate Reeves has floated a number of options, including apparently privatizing the system. He said so during a news conference yesterday.
Privatization is on the table. Having a commission that oversees failed water systems, as they have in many states, is on the table. So again, I'm open to ideas.
Let's discuss all this with Ashton Pittman, a senior reporter with the Mississippi Free Press, a nonprofit media outlet based in Jackson. Mr. Pittman, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
Before we talk about the options for what to do about the water system, let's just get into how things are now. What's the latest you're hearing from folks about how they're doing and how they're getting by?
Well, the water pressure is back, so that's positive. Students at Jackson Public Schools are now going back to class, so that's another positive. But there's still this boil water notice that remains ongoing. The governor has said that he hopes that within a matter of days, not weeks, not months, they will be able to lift this boil water notice. But that remains to be seen. This boil water notice began on July 29th. So it began long before the city lost water pressure last week. So this has been going on for much of the summer. And everyone's hopeful it's going to end soon. But we know from the history that boil water notices in Jackson have been a very common feature for decades. So there's hope that this acute crisis is ending, but there's also the knowledge that going forward, unless something serious is done, this is going to happen again and again and again.
Do we know why this is happening over and over? I mean, boil water notices are not normal and they shouldn't be normalized, but why has it gotten to this point?
Right. Well, so this is an issue that's been going back for decades. You can take it back to the era right after integration, because in the 1970s, after the public schools in Mississippi finally integrated, long after Brown v. Board, white families started fleeing the city, moving out to the surrounding suburbs, Madison, Ridgeland, in Rankin County, all these places around Jackson, and so they took their tax dollars with them. Now, back in the 1970s, there was already talk about problems with Jackson's water system and how it needed to be fixed. So when all of that money left, it left this issue that just kept growing and growing, and the state government in the post-integration era, there was a lot of resentment towards Jackson, which eventually became a majority black city. And is now 83% black, and there were a lot of legislators would actually use Jackson kind of as a punching bag. They would go back to their rural, white towns and constituents, and they would put down on Jackson. So the city's been used as a punching bag throughout its history, and over those decades, it just hasn't been prioritized. The capital city has not been prioritized. That's not to say that it's all the state's fault, but that just gives you some background. We're going back to this period back when Democrats controlled the state, and by Democrats I mean Dixiecrats. You're segregationists.
Right.
So it's a long time problem about funding and just a failure to take care of infrastructure.
So what is the good money in terms of what fixes might actually be implemented? We've heard everything from systemic fixes, privatization of the water utility. What are the next steps to determine what actually will get done in Jackson?
Right, and that's the $1 billion or $2 billion question. There are talks going on at the legislature among members of the legislature, especially who are from Jackson, the governor, the city. But we don't have a great idea of what exactly those details look like right now. Like you said, the governor has talked about privatizations on the table, and we know that according to Mayor Lumumba today, there was a private company that the city had been talking with about hiring out for maintenance work because part of the problem is the cities have trouble hiring qualified people that they need to run the main water treatment plant. And according to him today, the city's talks with those private contractors have now been taken over by the state. So it's and the city would not tell us who that company was, but it's ongoing and a lot of it's seems to be in back rooms right now. So we don't know exactly what's going on, but we have heard these proposals of privatization, a commission. There's been talk of a possible conservatorship where the Public Service Commission would basically take over the system and return it to the city when things got better. But right now we're just waiting to see what happens between the city and the state and if they can actually work together.
Ashton Pittman, senior reporter with the Mississippi Free Press. Appreciate you making time for us tonight. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you.
The summer vacation season is basically over, but the summer heat is not. An update on the dangerous heat wave in California before we go. A record heat wave continues to bake the western U.S. More than 40 million Americans are under excessive heat warnings. Much of California is reporting triple-digit temperatures, setting a number of records. Today, the heat in downtown Sacramento reached 115 degrees. The previous record high was 114. That record stood for nearly a century. Joining us now is Grace Toohey, a reporter for the Los Angeles Times. Ms. Toohey, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Just before we came on the air with you, we got a notice from the California ISO, which is the statewide utility regulator, that says it's issued a level 3 energy emergency alert notice, and that runs through 8 p.m. Pacific time. So basically, if you are watching this program on the West Coast, the alert is in effect unless we're this deep into the program. And they're asking people to reduce their energy usage. This is kind of where it gets before they start to not be able to generate power regularly. This is putting incredible pressure on California's grid right now. How well is the state doing at dealing with that pressure?
Yeah, so I think that's really what we're going to find out tonight. Just like you're saying, we just got this really urgent request from the state to limit power. And they've been asking residents across the state for the last 7 days from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. to really reduce all of their electricity use to try and limit the strain on California's power grid. And so up to this point, they have been able to avoid any rolling blackouts. But that stage 3 emergency alert that we just got from California's ISO is the most severe alert that we've seen in this heat wave so far. And so they're warning that, they might start issuing these rolling power outages or rolling blackouts at any time now. So they really want people to shut off any power that they can to try and conserve.
And I just want to be clear and underscore what you just said. The consequence of this, if Californians cannot conserve enough power, is rolling blackouts, is that the system might shut off power intentionally to prevent larger parts of the grid from shutting themselves off on an emergency basis, right?
Correct. That's what's been at risk all week during this heat wave. As temperatures are so high, people are using air conditioning at levels that they really don't throughout the rest of the year. And not only that, it's when, it's during this time period when people are coming home from work. Usually there's more people inside, more people sitting at home. So they're asking people, don't watch your TVs, turn off any large appliances, don't do your laundry during this period until like 9 p.m. And that's when right now it's 6 p.m. here on the West Coast. And so we still have 3 more hours where we're trying to avoid these blackouts.
Governor Gavin Newsom had some suggestions for Californians of what he wants people to do. Here's part of what the governor said today.
Now, here's specifically what you can do. In the early morning hours, particularly tomorrow and the next day or so, pre-cool your home. Run your air conditioning earlier in the day when more power is available. And we encourage you to close your windows and blinds to keep your home cool as well. And today and tomorrow afternoon after 4 p.m., in particular 4 p.m., please turn your thermostat up to 78 degrees or higher and avoid, to the extent possible, using any really large appliances.
Do we have any sense of how well Californians are heeding these warnings? I mean, are people taking this seriously?
It seems like so far people are really trying to do their part. We really won't know the extent of how well these, what we call flex alerts, have worked in California until the end of this heat wave. But as I said, we've been dealing with this for the last 7 days. So since last Tuesday, the state has been asking people to limit their electricity use during these afternoon to evening hours. And we have not yet seen these blackouts, which is, a lot of officials are saying that is a success story so far. But unfortunately, we still have the rest of this week where we are expecting these insanely high temperatures across a large portion of the state of California. And so it's just continuing to grow and build on that stress on the power grid.
I know I got to let you go in a second, but heat and power use in California has historically been connected to a number of other things, including wildfires, drought, and so on. Not necessarily as directly as a power line fell and caused a fire. There's been that too. But all of this is happening in California right now all at once. How is the state dealing with the panoply of all of these heat-related issues?
It's a tough time. Yeah, you're exactly right. We've been dealing with this, one of the worst droughts in the history of California already this entire year, pretty much. And then when you add on this heat wave, it really doesn't leave many options for people. And we've actually seen, unfortunately, multiple wildfires throughout this heat wave across the state, too. It's not just in one area. We today are dealing with one that actually we've had 2 deaths reported in Riverside County, which is outside of Los Angeles. But we're also battling some in Northern California as well that have gone through some rural communities. So it's been really hard to see kind of all these issues compounding. And as we know, as climate change gets worse and we're seeing all of these issues playing and kind of intensifying on top of each other, we're seeing this play out this summer and into the fall right now.
Very briefly, before I got to let you go, any sense of when people can expect some relief from all this heat?
Yeah, we were really hoping that would have been about right now as of last week's forecast, but the new forecasts this week are projecting that this heat is going to really be lasting through the end of this week. We're hoping Friday, Southern California might get a bit more of this relief, but really the entire state isn't expecting to see real relief until this coming weekend. So, we're many days away from getting some cooler temperatures, which is scary. The kind of heat that we have out here is dangerous.
And I do just want to note the latest comments from California's ISO says it is not calling for rotating power outages yet. That, of course, could change. Grace Toohey from the LA Times, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And thank you for making time for us. Send us your thoughts and questions on anything we've discussed tonight. We're at NBC Now Tonight on social media. Leave us a voicemail or send us an email. Until we meet again, I'm Joshua Johnson. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.